What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another website podcast where we talk through the 24/7 football website, what has been happening through the week, and also we discuss the articles with the writers themselves as well. And we'll discuss the topics around them as also. So, as always, I'm joined by Adam Stevens, who is one of the heads of website here. Adam, how has the week been for the website?
Oh, hi everyone. Yeah, it's been a very good last week or so. Yesterday, I encourage you to check out an article from Peter Marcus Gale. That interview went up yesterday and goes into particularly BAM coaches in the English Football League, which is obviously very topical at the moment. And also there's another interview with Keith Hackett on the website as well, a former referee, which is also very interesting as well. And then we've also had a couple of good articles come up from our writer on the podcast today, which is Lauren, particularly on the women's football side of things with the German Women's Bundesliga, and also the Spanish women's football going pro as well, their leagues. So that was very good as well. And we're also going to have a look at the nominees for the Golden Boy Award as well for this year as well. So it's very exciting stuff anyway.
So, as Adam said, we have got Lauren McCann on with us, which is one of our writers from the website, a new writer as well. Lauren, first of all, welcome to the podcast. And tell us a little bit about your background in journalism and where you want to get to and what the goal is.
Well, first, thanks for having me on. So I'm Lauren. I'm from Northern Ireland. You can probably tell by my accent. So I've recently started trying to get into journalism. I'm still only 18. Hopefully going to university in September. And so I've just been trying to get into the world of writing about football. So I work for my local club, Cliftonville, and I run their Twitter on match days when we do have, before the break, obviously, when we had football, and just do lots of work for my local club, Carmoney, as well, who I play for, so match reports and newsletters and stuff, and then just writing locally for some of the publications in Northern Ireland, and then for 24/7 football as well. So I just want to try write as much as possible and hopefully get a job in the future.
That is the way to do it. Literally, just do as much work as you possibly can and just fill your boots.
How badly do you think the women's football game is going to be affected at the moment, considering the Women's Super League has been postponed or pushed back, as it were, to September, and is not going to be on air for the best part of 6 months, I think, something like that.
I think especially as Alex Scott has said as well, that the women's game is being pushed to one side. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I definitely do, because obviously it was ended early this year, even though there were only 14, 15 games in, and it was a really exciting season so far, and the appetite was obviously there, like the momentum following the Women's World Cup. You know, attendance figures this year had really gone up. Games in Tottenham Stadium, at Anfield for the Merseyside derby, there was a lot of appetite for women's football, especially in England, and it's just such a shame that now it's been put, almost as Alex Scott said, put to the side, especially because you look at leagues such as Germany, they're able to finish the season. America are coming back to finish their season. You just wonder how the WSL couldn't. Obviously, they may not have had the money, but in Germany, the men's clubs obviously came together and helped to support the women's clubs, you know, testing for coronavirus for all the clubs in any who weren't able to sustain themselves during this. And you just wonder, with the Premier League, all the broadcasting money, how they couldn't have stepped in. And it's such a shame because obviously it was such a great season, and you know, the clubs in the WSL heavily rely on the broadcasting money, and they're not going to get that now for 6 months or so. So yeah, it's really sad.
Do you think it highlights perfectly the gap between women's and men's sport in general, just in terms of there's huge clubs in the Premier League like City, United, Liverpool, who have got WSL clubs but reluctant to step in, and do you think there's a bit of a disregard for women's sport as a whole at the moment?
Definitely, you know, Liverpool are a prime example. They won the WSL in 2014 and now they're going down to the championship. You know, it's been a few years of underfunding and now look where they're going. You know, it's hard to see how they're going to come back with so many players leaving and all. And yeah, it's just, as you said, the men's teams are doing so well and they haven't stepped in. It's quite a shame.
Absolutely. I mean, because I think quite a few of the players ended up going to Man United when they basically formed a team as well. I think it was a couple of years ago, and as a result, as you say, they lost a lot of players. It's a bit of a contrast between the men's team and the women's team, and kind of seeing what sort of directions they're going in at the moment.
Well, in terms of women's football, a little bit more then, you've got the imminent announcement of the 2023 Women's World Cup host. Only 2 bids currently on the table. You've got Australia and New Zealand and Colombia. So what would it mean for the development of women's sport if they were given an opportunity to host a tournament in a country such as Colombia, where women's football absolutely thrives? You know, we see the Brazil team that do absolutely amazing. They've had some fantastic players. So would you prefer to see the World Cup go down to South America, or do you think the Oceania region would benefit just as much?
I think Oceania would benefit just as much. Obviously, Colombia, it might be a chance for them to grow the women's game because I was reading an article recently that said, you know, their facilities are quite poor. The women's teams are amateur. It's quite hard for them, but obviously, if a World Cup comes, it'll bring so much more attraction to the women's game. Lots of funding will go into Colombia as a whole and hopefully bring the women's game up. But the bid from Australia and New Zealand is really strong. You know, it would be the first World Cup held over 2 continents. It's obviously Asia and Oceania, and just Australia and New Zealand. You know, they're regulars at the World Cup. Australia reached the last 16 last time, and they have some great players coming through. Sam Kerr and Ford in the WSL. So I think their bid's really strong as well. They obviously have the facilities for it. The women's game's already quite big over there, so it would just get even bigger. So Colombia would be an interesting one, but I do think Australia and New Zealand's bid's very strong. It's probably favourites.
So personally, though, Lauren, where would you prefer to see it go? I'm sure if you go, which one would you prefer to work at, Colombia or Australia?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I would probably say Colombia, just for the cultural aspects. It would probably be really interesting, really colourful. I'm sure the fans would be great, but equally, I'd go to Australia either. Personal preference, probably Colombia.
It's a good choice to have. It's a
Yeah.
good choice to have. Adam, just in terms of the Women's World Cup, where it could be going, where would you prefer to see it going? Because obviously we've got the Euros in England as well, and then we move on to the World Cup. So, as we've talked about, there has been a back step for women's football. How important is it now to really build some momentum once COVID's done, and where would you prefer to see the World Cup take place?
Yeah, I think both countries I think would benefit. Both with the Australia, New Zealand, and Colombia. But I just think in terms of the growth, I think Australia and New Zealand just purely because I think they've got that more set up there basically. So I'd prefer Australia and New Zealand over Colombia, but yeah.
I think they're both, like Lauren said, they're both 2 great places to go to anyway. So everyone wins wherever it is. Lauren, just before we move on to the Golden Boy nominations, we haven't featured this on the website this week. It's just something that I wanted to pick your brain on. Was the US women's team obviously taking legal action against US soccer because they demand equal pay, if not more, compared to their male counterparts who don't perform to the level in their game compared to how the women perform in their respective games. So where do you stand on that, and how significant is it in terms of women's football to see how this actually plays out?
I think it's going to be huge. It'll have a huge impact on women's football in general. You know, if the women's team succeeds in their legal battle, it'll be historic. You know, being paid the same or even more than the men's team is obviously a huge bonus because, as you say, you know, you look at the US women's national team, they perform greatly. they won the World Cup in the summer. They're by far one of the best teams. You know, most of their players are professional players, and they perform to such a high standard that they should be paid equal, if not more. And you know, the fact that they're going the a legal battle to challenge for this shows that they believe so strongly that they should. So if it does succeed, you know, it'll be a huge step forward for women's football, especially in America, and some other countries might then take on the challenge.
Adam, where do you sit on that? Because the US men's team are absolutely pants at the moment, and you know, like we say, they see the women's team winning multiple World Cups, professional players, some of the best women's players in the world. So where do you stand on that one?
I think they're perfectly entitled to having the equal pay, purely because they've had that professional league set up for a long period of time, and also they, as George just said, that they have won the multiple World Cups. They're the last two. They've won the last two World Cups, so I think they're perfectly entitled to getting that equal pay in the sport.
Just brings up that question, doesn't it? I think in the men's game, I don't get why international teams are paid, because it's like you say, playing for your country, and they get, let's be honest, they get paid extortionate amounts anyway to play for their club. Do they need to be paid for international football? Because I'd play for England for free. I'm not good enough though, but I would, and I know a lot of other people would too. So that brings up the question: should the men's team be paid at all to play for their country, considering the extortionate amount they already get paid? So that's something to think about as well. Moving on to the Golden Boy nominations, which we had an article on, Lauren, and a huge shortlist of names makes that shortlist, and there's so many players there that haven't really played any football, but some big names on there as well. Who are you tipping as your favourite to win the Golden Boy award?
I don't think you can look past Jadon Sancho. You know, obviously he was picked to it last year by João Felix, and he doesn't even feature on the list this year. It shows just how badly he's flopped at Atletico Madrid. Obviously, you've the likes of Erling Haaland and Alphonso Davies who might push him close, but I don't think you can look beyond Sancho. You know, 20 goals, 20 assists this season, been a huge player for Dortmund and one of the best young players in the world. I think he fairly deserves to win the award.
I hope so, because he's got good potential for the next year's Euros as well. So the last English player to win the award would have been Marcus Rashford, or was it Raheem Sterling? Or did Rashford win the Golden Boy award?
I think it was Sterling, 2014.
Yeah, I know Sterling won. Did Rashford ever win it?
I don't think he did, no.
Shame. Well, it's just City players, isn't it, that win it? So, like you say, some huge names on there. Haaland as well. He's got a massive move to Dortmund. Alphonso Davies is someone potentially I feel could be one of the best defenders in world football coming up. He's so fast. Adam, where are you seeing the Golden Boy award going? Can you look past Jadon Sancho?
I can't really, to be honest. I mean, his form in the Bundesliga, as touched on by both of you, has been nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, he is one of a very exciting English prospect. I personally, as a United fan, would quite like to see Mason Greenwood or James Gardner, but I just can't see how they're going to run him get close to that, really. So yeah, I would say Jadon as well.
You are right. Raheem Sterling was the last English player. Then it was Anthony Martial, Renato Sanchez, Mbappe, Matthias de Ligt, and João Felix. There's some big names on there. João Felix last season went to Atletico Madrid. Lauren, you say he flopped. Did he potentially pick the wrong team that's too concerned about defensive solidarity rather than scoring goals and playing the way he wants to play?
Definitely. I think, you know, when you look at Simeone, what he demands from his strikers, it's as much as working back as it is scoring goals. You have to be such a focal point for the team, and I think at his young age, he just wasn't ready for that yet, the step up. He would have been better going to a more attacking, fluid team that plays the way he likes, so I don't know if he'd be long. He'll still be at Atletico Madrid for much longer.
It's definitely one to think about. And in terms of the actual Golden Boy Awards as well, I'm just looking through some of the recipients, you know, going back to 2003, Rafael van der Vaart, Wayne Rooney, Lionel Messi, Sergio Aguero. 2008, we had Anderson, and then we had Alexandra Pato and Mario Balotelli. Maybe 3 years where I don't know. Those three just seem to have flopped. Well, Anderson in particular seems to have flopped. But overall, the Golden Boy really do go on to have a fantastic career.
Well, I think Anderson, who played for United, ended up winning the Champions League. So I think he didn't flop too much. But yeah, no. I think a lot of them definitely go on. I mean, Van der Vaart was quality for Real Madrid, Tottenham as well. You've got there were, as you say, some big names on that list. I mean, Pato went to Milan as well, and I think he did okay. But yeah, it's there are definitely some big names that have won it in previous years.
Okay, I think that's the best place to leave it. Lauren, thank you very much for coming on today. Thank you for all the work that you do on the website as well, and hopefully there's more articles to come.
Thank you very much for having me.
Adam as well, thanks for coming on as well. Jonathan couldn't make it this week, but next time he will be on. So thank you for everyone for watching. Check out our website where all this great content is happening and the brilliant writers produce their stuff. It's 247football.com. All links will be in the socials below, as well as Lauren's socials and Adam's as well. So make sure you check that out in the description below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Like the video as well, and we shall see you next time.